3, 2, 1. All right. Episode 56, right? 56? Between Two Wheels podcast, cycling news, commentary, analysis, interviews from Northern California. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get special life insurance rates. Go to healthiq.com/BTW to support the show and learn more. And as always, support the show, subscribe, and share it via iTunes, Stitcher, Podbeam, whatever podcast service you use. And for this week, the show is also once again on our Between Two Wheels podcast YouTube channel. Interact with us on Facebook by searching Between Two Wheels. And the links will be in the show notes found in the description of this feed as well. Hello, I am Tyler Janke.
Are you sure?
Yeah, and Chris Flower, once again, thanks for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. A little frazzled again. It's been a busy week, so just trying to play catch up here.
Yeah, I feel off myself. I don't know exactly why. Could be because, once again, we're missing the mystical Curt Mills.
He's here in some capacity, I'm sure.
I don't even know. He said it's administrative week, and he has to, I don't know, take his secretary out to work or something, or to eat. Is that what's going on?
It must be.
I don't know. Well, anyway, welcome to all those that did join us. Curt, I know you'll listen to this later. Hey, how do you listen to this? Do you listen to this show?
I do, yeah.
How do you listen to it?
I'm not super podcast savvy, so I just follow the links from Podbean.
Okay, so you just go on there and then you download the app or something like that? Okay. Yeah, I use, well, there's the iTunes one, you can, little podcast service. I've used a bunch of different ones. One I really liked lately is, because I subscribe to a bunch to help boost our ratings. No, but I also do it just to test different ones out to see if there's any issues, because sometimes there's some weird issues.
Sure.
Overcast.fm, and what I like about it, when I'm out riding, I can program it so like I do a double or triple tap on my mic, and it fast forwards like by 30 seconds or back up by 30 seconds.
That's cool.
And most of them don't have that little capacity. Anyway, maybe tell us how you're listening to it, or if you really care. Obviously, if you're getting this, you're finding it somehow.
I think YouTube's getting quite a few viewers too, so that's always good.
Yeah, we're working on all those kind of things. So give us your feedback. We'll go through the mailbag here at the end. So let me just tease. What kind of bike things did you do this week?
What kind of bike things did I do? I just hit the local race rides again. That's kind of been my go-to, just to kind of keep the fitness going and kind of keep that sense of competitiveness going as well.
Is it working?
It's keeping me there. Yeah.
Are you doing okay with all that? Sometimes I get the feeling that there's a little, you want to toss the bike in the river.
It's been a good couple of weeks. It got a little warm in terms of temperature this week, so it was kind of a shocker to go from 60s to mid-high 80s, and that was pretty significant on Wednesday. I was feeling the burn from that, but other than that, it's been a good couple of weeks on the bike.
I did a bunch of yard work last Sunday, and it was toasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, but I prefer. Curt was saying, or one of you were saying about, summer, and I prefer I'd rather suffer with an ice sock than bundle up and have the rainy or cold. And
no, I'll take cold every day over hot.
Maybe it's because I grew up in the Northwest where there was, we'd get snow, and then it was like Gotham City. You wouldn't see the sun for a month and just snow on the ground. And then I moved to Colorado, and it'd be similar. They'd have at least more sunshine, but I'm just tired of it. I'm like, old man, send me to Florida. I'm good to go.
You don't need your creaky joints freezing up.
Yeah. Was it you that said this week that you when you wake up, your joints sound like popcorn or something like that?
Yeah, that was definitely me. That was after I think I did a run, and my body paid the price. Did
a run. Okay.
Last words.
Let's tease this, what we got coming up today. So we're going to discuss the recent happenings from Liege-Bastogne-Liege, a little Sea Otter action, Tour de Romandie, which is going on right now. Scotty Fonseca won a race, and we didn't mention it. We'll go over that. We preview the Tour de Yorkshire and predict a little bit of the Tour of Romandie. Domestically, we have the Tour of Gila that just concluded. USA Crit Series is going to get underway, and Redlands Classic is upcoming. NorCal, like I said, we had the Sea Otter. It's where road bikes meet mountain bikes, meets a lot of beer, and some expos.
And some cyclocross bikes, too.
And
I think
gravel,
it's everything.
Everything. Tandem. I even heard that they had an e-bike race, like a cross e-bike race or something.
I think they had that. I wonder if they do like a tandem downhill mountain bike. That'd be the ultimate.
Do they do naked bike riding? That's the only thing that seems to be missing.
When we get into that, I've got a brief story for you.
Oh, okay. More beer than normal, and I'm told we even had a lonely Redkite race this last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we'll preview a little bit of what's coming up. So, winners and losers in the cycling world, things that make you go, and an inquiry about whether road racing is dead and we should pay our respects or not. Ready?
Let's go.
All right. So, start with the men's tour. Last week, we had Liege-Bastogne-Liege, where they call it Le Doyenne, the old lady. I don't know. Calling your bike race the old lady, is that even PC? Should we even be going down that road anymore?
No, I think we should just call it...
the old man?
That'll work.
Okay. So the old man was there. 258 kilometers around Belgium, starting in Liege, goes down all the way to Bastogne, and then it's supposed to go back up to Liege, but it kind of dips over into Ons, this little kind of crappy-looking section of Belgium. So, yeah, the 11 categorized climbs, one last in the final 1 kilometer. It's not categorized, but it's definitely a problem. And it's been problematic. But it looks like it should be. So the race hits those last 2 famous climbs, about 222 kilometers into the race, so about 35 or so to go. And then on the Côte de la Redoute, and then the Côte de la, I'm going to mess these all up, Roche-en-Falcons at 239K, and then the Côte de Saint-Nicolas at 253. So you kind of have these all ramping up. And up the Redoute, in this race with like 34, 35 left to go, they caught the break. I think Philippe kind of did some movements. And then they go on up to the Faucon, and that's where Gilbert took off. And then it kind of weeded out. And over the top is where the winning move ended up coming about with Bobby Jungles.
Yeah.
The Jungle Man.
Yeah.
So we can talk about kind of the whole thing that happened with that race. And then he ends up holding everyone off for the last 25K. The cool part that we saw there was the next 2 coming in, Bardet and Mike Woods, trying to make, get on the podium and actually being able to hold that off, and then not having Alaphilippe and or Valverde actually get on the podium. So what was your take of the race, or any breakdown things that you want to go over?
Yeah, so I've been making a good effort to try and wake up early and watch these live as they happen. I kind of missed the mark on this one and really only caught the last 5 or 10 kilometers. At that point, Jungles was already up the road. Who was the lotto rider that made the initial big effort to try and bridge across to Jungles?
Well, Wellens, Van der.
Yeah. So when I started watching, he had just launched an attack, brought Jungles back from about 55 seconds or so to about 25. And at that point, with as much race as there was left, I wasn't sure that he was going to be able to stay away. I mean, it looked like there was a potential for him to get brought back. Obviously, he didn't. But it was really good to see Woods kind of hold on and place as well as he did. There was a point where I thought he was going to kind of fade off the group because there was a little surge and he kind of didn't look like he had as much spring in his pedals as everybody else, and I thought maybe he was just going to hold on for a pack finish at best, if not even get dropped by the pack. So it was good to see him hang around and follow Bardet.
Yeah, so just kind of going on to things. So when Gilbert attacked with that 20-some K to go up the Falcons, they got rid of Nibali, which, okay, he's not going to win another monument. So that was one thing to see. And it was interesting going over the top because then Jungles takes over, and he and Woods are kind of separating themselves from everyone else. I mean, it was stringing out, and I think over the top of that, there was like 15. And I sent you some pictures because I took some snapshots of what at the time. And Woods is right on Jungles' wheel, and they start to go down. And it's just one of those things that I've been there myself multiple times. I don't think Woods is not weak or anything, but he didn't want to pursue pedaling. We used to do these. My coach would have us do interval trainings up the top of the climbs, but he'd have us go not just to the top, but push over, another 10 seconds. And that was the whole deal. That move over the top can be, and Jungles didn't attack. He just rolled, and Woods refused to pull him to do any kind of pedal strokes, to just stay on his wheel. He was grabbing a bottle, and then no one else went. And next thing you know, he's got 10, 20, 30, 40 seconds or 30 seconds, and he's bombing.
Yeah, and there was a feed zone right at the top of the climb.
Correct.
Is that where Woods got feed, or is that where Jungles got feed?
I think they were. I don't remember if Jungles did, but I mean, he was on his wheel when he was getting a feed. He just separated. And then I took a little look here. So these are the teams in the group. You had QuickStep, you had at least 2 guys, Alaphilippe and Jungles. You had Astana had 2 guys. I thought UAE did, but I looked back and they didn't. Mitchelton Scott had 2 guys. Bahrain Merida had 2 guys. Ladu Sudal had 2 guys. Sunweb had 2 guys. They had Matthews and Dumoulin in there. And then you had solo riders, the AG2R, Bardet, EF, Education First with Mike Woods, Movie Star with just Alejandro Valverde, Dan Martin with UAE, and then Formulo with Bora. And so you had all these little climber guys, and then the teams with the dual guys, they were not willing to put out the work.
Well, Haig was working really hard for Mitchelton Scott.
Well, was he? I mean,
well, it looked like he was.
Yeah, I think when it was too late.
Yeah. But he was at least up there doing what he could.
Sure. And when you talk about Vanendert going up the road, well, Wellens kept kind of attacking as well. And, he ends up getting popped out. Now, to Dan Martin, he was attacking, but none of these guys, they weren't working. They were like trying to do surge, and so they would instantly bring it down by 5-10 seconds, and then the break would the attack would get caught, and then it would balloon.
Yeah,
they would come out. So it was anyway. So that's all done. I think Mike Woods maybe blew that one because maybe if he rolls with Jungles, well then that's a 2-up, and he's got a good chance with the way that finish is. You never know.
Yeah, it's hard to play that game though, because if Woods sticks on Jungles' wheel, then whoever was on Woods' wheel probably would have stuck on Woods' wheel, and it would have stayed together until the next climb or whatever it happened to have been.
But if Jungles doesn't go up the road, then what you have is actually the opportunity of anybody to win, and which Woods may have still had that opportunity. He may have gotten away with someone. And
Woods seemed to come out of it pretty positive. I mean, he said it was the result of his life.
And it's still, let's take away this Jungles part. So Jungles is off the road. First of all, what do you think about the fact that all these monuments and a lot of these classics have been won with massively long breakaways? It almost makes you wonder if when Jungles goes off, these guys have just not been paying attention this classic season. I mean, because this is exactly how it's been done, right? Especially with QuickStep.
Yeah, and I didn't see what had happened in the race before that. So I don't know if Jungles was doing much work beforehand or if he was just kind of saving himself for an opportune time. Because you're losing guys like Nibali, who's no slouch. So, are these huge hard efforts, or are guys just kind of timing their attacks really well? But yeah, most of the moves have definitely come from big solo efforts.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's just to plan or just guys kind of grasping the opportunity when it gets presented to them.
I don't know.
Or what.
It's been Nibali did that himself. Not a long attack, but he attacked up on San Remo. Yeah. And then you've got Terpstra doing this. You've got Sagan doing that. Anyway, it's been an interesting classics with that. With that said, Jungles up the road. Woods does a great move. He keeps trying to go with different guys, and then he ends up getting up the road with Bardet, which I thought was a great situation. Both of them can just kind of, especially up that long gradual climb, they both had a good tempo going. And then I was like, I think Woods should be able to come around him, which he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, look, nothing against Woods. I mean, that's had the ride of his life, I would say.
I would agree. Yeah.
Anybody in there that you were interested in or disappointed in, or
I'm kind of curious to see how. I mean, obviously, Alaphilippe did his job. He just sat around and waited once Jungles got up the road. And I'm curious if he would have been more interested to jump with Bardet and Woods and maybe go 1-2. I don't know what kind of legs he had, or if he was just kind of playing the teammate role.
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember. I know Bardet went and then Woods gapped up to him.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the situation was for Alaphilippe, but I think his concern was watching. Well, first of all, you get those two guys up the road. They're not like big time trial guys. You think perhaps you can bring it back because you've got Valverde in the mix, and he's, the odds are still in your favor with all that group. But then Alaphilippe ends up winning that field sprint. I don't know. I mean,
he looked pretty good in the field sprint too.
He looked
took
like
it easy.
He could have won that race, but for his teammate.
So impressive. Thanks, Bob. Jeez.
Yeah. I saw Dumoulin was trying to, and I'm like, oh, he's starting to put the pedal down to chase, but then he just kind of faded.
Yeah. So he put in a big effort and got brought back. I don't know if he was just kind of testing his legs at the end of a big, long ride like that, or what he was looking to do there.
It'll be interesting to see how he comes in the upcoming Giro.
Yeah. Who won the women's race?
So we had the women's race. Let's get to that. Good question. Anna van der Breggen wins that Boels Dolman cycling team. Second place by 6 seconds was Amanda Spratt, the Mitchelton Scott. And then Annemiek van Vleuten in third place, 58 seconds back for Mitchelton Scott. So they had two on the podium there, the second and third place. And then
it looks like 1-2 got up the road. And
Yep. Yeah. I'm trying to see if there was Megan Garnier, Boels Dolman. She ended up with 8th. So top 10 finish for her as well. It's pretty impressive.
Nice.
So, any other things you want to talk about with the Liege?
No, I think I'm good. Now that kind of closes the door on the classic season.
It does. Yeah.
So now we're into the wide world of stage racing.
Yeah. So now we got some stage racing coming up, and which we'll go over just a little bit of this. So Tour de Romandie is coming up right now. And they start off with a short time trial prologue won by Michael Matthews, Sunweb. And I was watching some of that. Some guys were using TT bikes, some were using regular road bikes. So it was interesting to see kind of, as we're preparing for the Giro here. And Michael Matthews, I did hear him talking about the next few days. So he ends up starting stage 1 with the yellow jersey, gets dropped, has a tough time. Stage 2, he tries to work it out in the sprint and gets like third because there was a solo off the front. And then I heard him talking about it. He's like, I'm losing. I don't have some power. But he's basically talking about how he was coming back from, I think he was injured. And he's been doing all these classics. And he said it feels like he's basically, he did one of the early stage races too. And he says it's basically like a grand tour he's put in here with a bunch of one-day races. So
yeah, and I think
he might be tired.
I thought he fractured his scapula or something.
Okay.
I forget. I know he had a crash and an injury, but did you, when you were watching the prologue, I know it was short. Was it technical or was it pretty straight?
Well, there was a little climb with some cobbles. So some guys were concerned about what they were going to do with that. And I think the time trial guys that ended up just taking the time trial bike out ended up making up. The fast part was more decisive than the little short climb. So,
gotcha.
And I know someone like Dan Martin, who's out there, he just rode the regular bike. I don't know if he's been maybe not putting enough time trialing in right now with it. So who knows about that? Anyway, stage 1 won by Omar Freire of Astana. Then the GC went to, our little ski jumper guy, Primoz Roglic of Lotto NL Jumbo. Stage 2 was won by Thomas de Gendt of Lotto Soudal. Took a long break with his teammate Cam Partnetz and EF Education First rider Nathan Brown. Did you see any of that?
I didn't, no.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a little breakdown for
Let's hear it.
Which was interesting. There was a write-up where de Gendt and his teammate had been talking. De Gendt had been basically focusing on this stage and said, I want to take this one. So they did a bunch of recon, and Campanarts, I think that's how you say his name. He's Mr. Time Trial guy. So these two start texting back and forth, doing a WhatsApp or something like that about this thing. And Campanarts is like, I'm in. I'll drag you around. And he's talking about all different, aero techniques, different things. So they've been planning this. So that's what happened. The three of them are out there, and he's just dragging him along.
Yeah.
And they get 4 or 5 minutes or so up the road. And about 30K, he gets popped off. Campanarts does. Yeah. And then de Gendt did not want to mess around with Nathan Brown, and he dumped him about 5K later and then soloed in for the last 25. And Nathan Brown had the virtual yellow jersey at this point, and he needed to hold on, and he just kept gradually getting drawn in. I think within the last K, he finally got swallowed up by the field. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah, so de Gendt ends up holding on to the win for that. Today we had the time trial, 9.9K. It was actually won by Egan Bernal of Team Sky, who I think is going to possibly be the next great thing.
Yeah, and this was a more climbing-oriented time trial.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. If
you look at the winners.
Yeah. Primoz Roglic ends up in second and holds on to the GC. Richie Port in third. Roglic has 6 seconds over Bernal and 27 over Port. And it'll be interesting because tomorrow is a climbing stage. It's 150K. So I like these little short stages they've been having with some of these early stage races.
Yeah, and it's good to see Port kind of quietly making his way back into the world of competition after the Tour de France last year, and obviously getting good results if he's sitting third in GC. So
yeah, it's taken him a lot longer than it has Alejandro Valverde to come back.
Well, Richie Port is, he's younger than Valverde.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is there. Maybe it's the injury, because that knee injury usually doesn't keep anybody out. Wait, maybe
you don't use the knee much in cycling.
No, not at all. Not what he did.
No.
And then so I think whoever you're going to see tomorrow, you're going to see the GC. It's not going to change much over on Saturday, which is 182K. Starts a little climbing, and then it's kind of downhill last 80K. So then we have what's coming up. We'll finish the last two stages of the Tour de Romandie, Tour de Yorkshire, and then the Giro. Do you know much about Tour de Yorkshire?
Very little. Short stage race, a lot of punchy climbs.
Yeah. Kind of, is it equivalent, you think, to, and I probably should look at the UCI rankings on this. I would say comparable to our Tour of California. Or maybe the Tour of Utah.
Yeah, I think closer to that or Colorado Cycling Classic, whatever it is now. I just remember, I think it was Yorkshire a couple years ago, guys rolling up on a couple climbs, swatting cell phones out of fans' hands. Yeah. So that's my kind of lasting image from that. Or maybe that was Tour of Britain, one or the other.
Is there a difference?
Yeah. I'll go with no.
Apologies to our British friends over there. Giro d'Italia, May 4th through the 21st, starts in Israel, which will be very interesting.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. Chris Froome holding strong, gonna race it out.
He's gonna show up. He's gonna race. Lance Armstrong is going to start. He's going to go over there and do his podcast.
Now, I've heard that he can go over and do his podcast, but he's still being held away from any of the race festivities or any of that stuff. So he can podcast from a distance.
Oh yeah, it's like the settlement had nothing to do with his ban on cycling.
Right.
So he can't do anything in an official capacity.
Right.
He can't be like us, Chris, and get media credentials.
Can we give him ours?
I don't know. He actually said he's coming to the Tour of California and he's going to cover the women's race. So we're going to have some competition. And what's interesting, maybe I'll talk about him a little later. But okay, so the Giro's coming up, starts in Israel. There's been some controversy over the fact that some people have some issues with Israel itself and Palestine.
And they're just doing a short prologue there. Prologue time trial.
Well, I think it's, 2 stage prologue and then stage 1, I believe.
That's right. Stage 1 starts and finishes. Yeah.
But not to get into politics about this, but it is interesting that you haven't had any, you got concerned about this, but yet you have Bahrain and the UAE as big sponsors. Right. And then we have all these races in the desert. Oh, Chris is concerned about my mic. All right.
Fall and make a ruckus.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay. So anyway, regardless of that, it'll be interesting to see kind of what the process is from there.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that I've always been a big fan of Dumoulin, so I'm hopeful that he's able to find some form. And the one challenge I think that he's going to find with the race, not to preview the race too much since we can do that next week, is it's a little light on time trials. I think there's maybe 15, 20 kilometers of time trialing in the whole stage race, so that was definitely an area where he was able to sneak back the win last year.
Yeah, well, he climbed okay.
He did, but he really took it back on the last TT.
Yeah, which was an interesting one. Some of those time trials, and sorry to deviate here again, but some of those time trials can be kind of boring. But that was one of the more exciting ones for me because they had the GPS on him, and he was, coming up on Nairo. Yeah. It was Nairo, right?
Yep.
And he had to, bit by bit, they're showing him catching him slowly, and then virtually, and then passing him. So it was actually pretty exciting.
Anyway, I was gonna say they released their team for the Giro as well, so it'll be interesting to kind of break those down. And Giant.
Oh, okay. Because I hadn't seen any of the other ones being released yet, so I guess some teams are releasing them. So speaking of which, so Froome is obviously racing. I saw Wout Poels, Hanau. No one really else that I thought was like big time. I mean, their whole team's big time, but it's not like they're bringing Geraint Thomas or anything.
No, yeah, and they obviously Grand Tour short rider, so they've got to be very selective in who they bring.
Let's go back to that again. Do you think that's made a difference in some of these long range, like Liège, being able to kind of go up from a distance a little bit more?
I would say no. I think maybe there's a one-off situation where it's like, oh, I wish we had rider A here with us because then we could really launch an attack or something. But outside of that, I don't think it's changed the racing dynamics too much because if you look at the end of the races for all the big classics, everybody that was going to be there was there. It's not like Sagan wasn't there because he was missing his 15th rider or something like that.
That Bora team, though.
They're strong.
They had a guy in Liège, David Formulo. So women's, we've got Tour California coming up. Is this a big event for them this year?
I think so. I don't think it's as big as it's been in the past. We mentioned Gournier getting 8th in Liege-Bastogne.
Yeah.
She's going to be riding it as part of a composite team, Team USA with Compton. So I don't know if they're bringing all the big teams for the women's event or if it's kind of what's the men's ranking, 2.1, 2.2?
Yeah.
So I don't know if for the women if it kind of falls a tier below that or kind of how that shakes out.
We'll do all our research for that coming up. What I did notice, because I was looking at the different stages last night. So Elk Grove, they just ride around Elk Grove. But then the second day they go out in Tahoe, which is a pretty good stage for them. And last year they did another thing kind of down and around, but this year they're just doing basically a crit around the Capitol.
Oh, okay.
6-corner crit.
Interesting. So they're not going to do a longer circuit.
Yeah.
So it's a 3-stage.
3-stage for them, okay. And the last one kind of ends. And I'm a little disappointed for that.
Yeah, it's definitely a little less than last year because I think they did 2 Tahoe stages last year.
I can't confirm that. You're probably right. I just know that the last day they went out and around like South Sacramento area, like the river ride out there, and then came into town and finished out there. So they had a little bit more substantive. But you know, it's what it is. So it should be pretty good. You have any winners and losers from the World Tour?
For winners, I mean, I think Boels Dolman is just crushing it. They had Amstel Gold a couple weeks ago, and then picking up Liege-Bastogne-Liege this week that's an impressive take for them. So
yeah, no, I agree. I'll say Mike Woods. I mean, how do you go wrong with having a breakout race like that? You'd called him out. You were wondering if he was going to be in Liège, and boom, there he was.
It wasn't a call out per se, but just it's a good opportunity for him to land a good result. Is he doing the Giro?
I believe yes, he is.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
So that'll be interesting to see him at the Giro as well. And that was kind of the question. Was I hadn't really seen him much.
Yeah,
and so I was kind of curious where he was, and obviously that's a marker as to where he is.
Definitely. Who do you got for a loser?
I hadn't really thought about too much of who the loser is. I don't know.
Again, not quite a loser, but he had good finishes. But Valverde, I mean, it looked like he was slated to win Amstel Gold and then Liege-Bastogne-Liege, and he was off the mark on both of them. And granted, he still had good finishes, but he wasn't able to quad-pete or whatever you want to call it. So.
I was pretty ticked off Sunday with Mike Woods actually, and maybe I'll post up the pictures, and I could insert them on our YouTube with this as well. Not hanging on Bob Jungles' wheel at that point. I just thought that was so. Maybe he's my winner and my loser. I mean,
twofer.
Yeah,
wow.
Twofer. Yeah, a little disappointed. Actually, the loser might be the guy doing some drilling outside our office right now. I have no clue what that is. It's a little noisy.
It's the new Friday feature.
Yeah. Maybe Phil Guyman. I don't know. I like to recess this guy, bring him back in all the time. I saw he had a really nice, heartfelt Twitter tweet about Mike Woods winning and what a great guy he was. Yeah. And then he basically turns it into read it all about in my book, and he starts selling his fucking book. I was like, you took your friend's win or near win, and you turned it into a sales opportunity. Well done. All right. Domestic racing. We had Tour Gila just got finished over here, and I thought it was actually, I don't know, were you able to, I know you watched the crit. Were you able to watch anything else?
I just caught a bit of the crit. I tried to stay on top of who was doing what because I knew there were some local masters in the race, but I just kind of got sidetracked here and there, so I was only able to touch in on it briefly. But obviously, challenging stage race, one that I have zero interest in ever doing. Yeah,
it's 5 days, 3 road races, a crit, and a time trial. And we'll kind of just recap some of these because there's some interesting little tidbits we could get through on here. I watched the crit. They streamed that live. It was pretty
the feed started off rough, but then it cleaned up for the last 45, 55 minutes. So
let's say they did. Let's just make up a number and say they did 30 laps. So,
sounds good.
So which lap is usually the most important to show?
I would say probably lap 37. 30. Well, how many laps did you say?
I said 30, but okay. So cool down is good to watch.
That's the important part. The last lap.
Yeah, so they're on the last lap, and I'm like, oh, sweet. And they had been showing video from right at the start-finish line,
right,
and this different spots. Suddenly they show up from like the corner after the start-finish line. I have no clue as to what happened.
I just saw that there was a guy that posted it up, and it's like,
no clue.
There's a silhouette.
Yeah,
awesome.
it was horrible. And, what do you expect? We're just trying to do live stream stuff here.
Right.
But anyway, we'll just go through a bit of the men's pro, women's pro, and then some of the masters because we've got some interesting news in there. So first day, the Mogollon road race, 92 miles for the men, 71 for the women, 72, 73 for the masters. It was won by, Oscar Sanchez Guarn from Canal Specialized. Rob Britton for Rally gets second. Alex Evans of Mobius Bridge Lane gets third. Women, and you get some of these people are just going to be repeating over and over here. Katie Hall, United Healthcare. Sarah Poitevin of Rally, and Edwige Patel of QCW Cycling for the women. Masters, I'm just going to touch on some of the ones we know here. Jonathan Baker, Touchstone Racing in fifth. So we talked to Jonathan Baker at Winchester, and he said he was going out there. He and Jeremy Caudill.
And he's the reigning champion.
Yeah, he slaughtered everything last year.
Yeah.
Jeremy Caudill of Touchstone got seventh, and then there's some Thirsty Bear guys out there as well. Tom Lyons of Thirsty Bear got 11th place on that first day. So then the next day we have the Interloop Road Race. The pros did 76 miles. Chris Blevins, the Hagens-Berman Action Team, won. Danny Jaramillo Diaz of UHC in second, and Cormac McGill and Jelly Belly. And then just some notables here. Cooper Rombold, Team California, was 38th in that race.
Local guy.
There was several local guys out there, and break them down on the last day, actually. GC still with Oscar. Women, Chloe Digert, you're going to start hearing about a lot. 2020 PB Show Air. Emma White of Rally. Diapuela Martinez of UHC. And then note here, Shayna Palace, 2020 PB Show Air, local.
Yeah.
You might have heard of her brother. He used to be a mountain biker, triathlete or something like that.
Something like that. I think he went up Bridge Road really fast one day.
Yeah. Katie Hall, then with the GC, the Masters, Jeremy Cattell gets second in that road race. Then the time trial, Sergey Techkov of UHC wins it. Gavin Mannion of UHC is in second. Evan Huffman, local, Folsom guy, Rally, gets third. Rob Britton takes over the GC. The women, Chloe Digert, once again, 2020 Show Air, Sarah Poitevin of Rally, and Katie Hall. So a lot of those, and Katie Hall then takes over the GC. A lot of the same issues going on.
And one of the things they pointed out, I would say at least a dozen times during the Crit Live feed, is that Sergey Chekhov was represented his country in the Olympics. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I bet there were more women in this race that were Olympians than men, though.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty safe statement.
Because there's some pretty good female cyclists.
Yeah.
Tom Lyons gets second in the road race. Jeremy Cattell of Touchstone gets sixth, and I did not mark out what. And then Jeremy was a fifth on GC. I didn't mark out what Baker was at that point. The crit, Micah Rice, the Hagens-Berman Action, gets the win. So he's the guy we saw post up that we just had no clue about.
Gotcha. Yeah, it looked like before they kind of changed the camera angle, it looked like his team was doing a good job of keeping him protected up at the front and just kind of keeping the pace hot. So set up well.
And I saw this year. Cole Davis was out there, and then you saw the group ride on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Did you talk to him at all?
I did not.
Okay. I thought maybe you could ask him how he did.
No.
All right.
Didn't happen.
The women, Emma White wins it. Chloe Digert in second. So Lauren Hall. So you have and Katie Hall is the GC. So UHC 2020 and Raleigh are just kind of taking this over. Masters, Jeremy Cattell wins the crit and moves up to fifth on GC. So congrats to him.
Nice.
I just keep mentioning his name because he ends up just keep creeping up. Stage 5 is the big Gila monster. The women do 68.9, men do 100.6, and the Masters do 68.9 as well. The women, Dia Puela Martinez of UHC wins. Look at this top three. Katie Hall, UHC, second. Leah Thomas, UHC, in third. So they sweep the top three. Shayna Palace ends up 11th place, 119 down. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely.
So good for her. She's coming up there. GC, Katie Hall wins it. Sarah Poitevin, Katie Hall with UHC. Sarah Poitevin of Raleigh. Leah Thomas with UHC. And Shayna Palace, 13th overall. The men's pro, Gavin Mannion wins the Gila Monster with Rob Britton in second. Kyle Murphy in third. And so here's some notables. Jason Saltzman of Velo is in 59th. Cooper Rombold, 85th with Team California. Cole Davis ends up in 91st with Hagens-Berman Action. And Leo Yip, Team California, got a DNF. I didn't see what I did get Cooper in there. So good for those guys going out there. That's a pretty brutal race to show up. And especially like Rob Britton wins the overall. Gannon Mannion in second. Kyle Murphy in third. So look at Rob Britton as an example. He won Tour Utah last year with guys from UHC.
Right.
I mean, guys from BMC were out there.
Yeah.
So it's no Brooke Walter and a few others, so it's no small feat. He's gone up on Tour Utah with and done well, top 5 over there when they've had the Garmin Sharp team, Danielson, Horner, Cadell Evans. So he's no little guy himself as far as climbing, and good for these guys all going out there and showing themselves. Masters. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I only know a small amount about the race, but I know that the last stage is supposed to just be notoriously difficult. I mean, it's the Gila monster. I think it's 100 miles for the men's pro race, and it's probably 10, 12, 13,000 feet of climbing.
Something like that, yeah.
That's a nutty way to end your stage race. I mean, that's a lot of pain.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous race out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
In the GC, for the Masters, Jonathan Baker gets second on the stage. Jeremy Cadell gets fifth, and Jeremy ends up moving up to third overall. So, real good job for those two going out there. And,
definitely.
Yeah, good for them. And remember a few years ago, Lance and Levi, and I don't know if it was Horner, they all showed up. They were going to do that race, and they did with Lance's Mellow Johnnies.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. You didn't hear about that?
No. How'd they fare?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I Levi probably did well, I'm thinking. We have the USA Crit Series starting, the Athens Twilight starting tomorrow. So look for the USA Crit Series links on any of your pages. I don't know. We could post it up on ours as well, but they should have live streaming for that.
Live streaming, and I believe the San Rafael
is part of
Twilight is rolled into the USA Crit Series. So
yeah, one of the sponsors or I don't know collaborators with that is the Cycling Tips website, and I know they're. I don't mind talking about other people's podcasts, Chris. I'm brave like that.
Wow.
But they had, I think there was a podcast last week. They sent out. You can check it out. They talked to Frank Andreu and then one of the guys that started it. So you get a lot of good info about kind of the evolvement of this and their involvement with it as well. So I suggest that. It's pretty good stuff.
Cool.
Then we have Redlands Classic coming up 1st of May. Do you know? I haven't looked at the start sheets on that. I don't know if Mike's Bikes. Mark Pro, if they're doing that. We should probably talk to Andrew and see if he knows.
We can find out. I would think that they would be because it's been a race that they've definitely been participating in for quite a few years.
And we could probably do a little more in-depth, but I meant to look to see. I think they're still going up Oak Glen, the big climb that they've kind of had avoided the last several years.
Oh, really?
Which is what the one they went up, 2 years ago with, which kind of got Sepp Kuss, his... he's a lot of NL Jumbo now, and he took that up and then got on to Raleigh. So that's kind of where he won a few years ago. Have you raced or ridden down Southern California at all?
I've done a couple crits down there, but that's it. But that was more in kind of the flatter part of town. It was just one of the what is it down there? The CBR crits. Okay. I did that once.
Yeah. CBR. We talked to Jeff Prinz about those.
It was by his predecessor, gotcha. Chris Lotz.
And then just some bad news here. I don't know if you saw this. Jacqueline Kroll died, age 30, brain cancer. Just a quick little synopsis here. She had surgery in 2013 to remove a brain tumor. Mechanical engineering degree. We applaud that. She signed with Team Type 1 2009 to 2011, then Exergy 2016 for 2012 to 13. Then she signed on with United Healthcare in 2014, and I don't even think she really raced that year. She was having some quite more difficulty.
Sure.
And her teammate won the U.S. National Road Race that year, won that a car, Volkswagen, with a year's lease, and they gifted it to her. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sad to hear any of that kind of things happening, but life goes on.
Yeah, that's never good to hear.
No. Another one was Andy Reese, owner of BMC.
Right.
It was that went down, the settlement, and I always tie him in now with Floyd Landis, and because Landis rode for Phonak at the time. That was his company. So maybe Andy Reese was Phonak, not to be. I don't know. It's all a blur to me what all that is. So
now there has been speculation that BMC might be calling it quits after this year. Does this play into that at all? Do you know?
I don't know. I would imagine it was a corporation rather than just him owning it as sole proprietor.
Yeah, but I wonder if he was bankrolling.
I think he had been bankrolling it. So yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. I haven't heard that asked anywhere else, Chris. So you're more savvy than most.
leading edge here.
So Scott Fonseca wins the 45, 1-2-3 in Auburn. We did not mention that before. And he's with the Audi Reno Tahoe team.
Yeah, no, and beating Mike is no easy feat, so that's a good accomplishment on Scotty's part. So.
Yes, and that was brought to our attention, so I just thought we'd throw that in there. Anything you want to mention about the Auburn crit or Fonseca's win?
I did not see it. I only got up there when the 2-3 race was going, so I didn't get to see how that one played out.
Once again, though, I think that goes to if people were. I mean, Scott can go uphill okay. He definitely is like a sprinter, and so if they're thinking that the Auburn crit's too difficult, and does not take anything away, but it's a strongman's race, right? We saw that with him, Sayers. Chris Baker, a bunch of these different riders that do just fine.
It's definitely
Hankins.
Like a power move course. It's it definitely serves you to be tactical too. I mean, Scotty seems like he's always thinking as far ahead as possible when he's racing and riding. So it's definitely one where if you've got some good tactical ability, you've got a good opportunity to do well. Yeah.
Do you know if those two were off the break themselves? He and Sayers.
We can say they were.
Sure, that sounds good. Redkite happened last week. Do you want to talk about any of those?
We can jump into it a little bit.
I did not go.
I did not go either. Again, much like I do some of my local races, I get caught up via race photos. So I can kind of infer some context there just by looking at how things played out.
But at this point on the YouTube, I'll stick in Jeff Linder's video from that race.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. It looks like in the P12 race, Jeff Linder and Bob Terra got an early jump on the field and went up just the two of them, lapped the field. Jeff Linder took the win with Bobby coming in second. Chris Evans, also from Tarun, same team as Jeff Linder, got third. So a good podium again for the Tarun Elite to go 1-3 with Oak Valley's Bob Terra coming in second place. And it's a flat course. It's pretty open. Wind can come into play, but for those guys to lap the field just as a duo, and I think they said 35 minutes. I mean, that's no easy feat. So they're definitely motoring along. Yeah,
Bobby, I talked to him, and I know you did as well. He was saying that he didn't want to lap the field because he didn't have any teammates. Yeah. Jeff Linder did. He knew there was going to be trouble.
Yeah.
So he was just not really doing much, and he said they lapped him too quick, and then Jeff just made the impetus to get up there early, and Bobby was just kind of not trying to have that happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the finish, you can see the last, I think Jeff's video's got the last lap or two laps, and you can kind of see Tarun is setting it up perfect for Jeff, leading him out, and really Bobby's only move there is to sit on Jeff and maybe try and get an early jump on him going into the last corner, and just doesn't work out. But
yeah, this may be controversial, but there was a comment online about, and just, people can search it out, that kind of was berating Jeff for taking a win against saying, it's like cherry picking, or you're kind of just beating up on little kids, taking candy from a baby type of thing. And look, Jeff's been winning and doing well all season. So, but I also think that winning, it's good to practice winning. Right. Go out to a race like that, and if you don't win, he should be expected to, and he did. And then guys that like Robert Terra getting out there with him, that's a guy that he wants to look to and get on his wheel, and he did the right thing.
Yeah.
And when you're out there racing, you want to have guys like that try. It makes you feel good. So I don't know that I buy that excuse necessarily, or that negative comment about him. What do you think?
I would agree.
You want to join?
No, I think, if you've got an opportunity to win and it's there, you should take it. And if you watch the video, Bobby jumps at the whistle and Jeff follows, and they look back, we've got a gap, let's roll this. If you're in Jeff's shoes, what do you do? Say, that wouldn't be cool if I followed Bobby, so I'm just going to let him go. No, I think if you've got an opportunity to play your strengths, you go and get the win.
And how much is the entry fee?
I don't know, $80.
Yeah, so you're putting the money down. You're like, I'm not going to just sit. I can go train on my own.
Right?
Why not? I don't have a problem with it. If I could win that race, I would.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, next week you'll be out there.
Then it would be like, hey, Tyler, you're punching above your weight. Way to go.
Men's 2-3. Robert Skinner took the win with Travis McEwen from Mike's Bikes development team second. Emmett Smith with Squadra, presented by Tarun.
You don't have the right. I have the Dallas Cowboys team in there. Is that not the right Emmett?
Might be a different one. Yeah, and I don't think Robert Skinner's on a team. I think he's still running solo. And looking at the pictures, it looked like he won with like a good 20-25 second gap on the field. Oh, cool. So that's a heck of a job on his part. In the 35, men's 1, 2, 3, Jake Hensley with the win over Dean LaBerge and Sean Bagley and David Allen. So Jake's with Audi Reno, Dean's with Pete's, David Allen's with Mike Spike's Elite, and Sean Bagley with HSR Racing. So we've had quite a few chats with Sean, and
he needs to be careful. He's going to start. They're going to put him up to a 1 pretty soon. He's going to not be able to do those 2-3 races anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
I just added that one in to try to look because Jake has a Golden State's coming up, and that's one he won last year, and he's got a tremendous. No, did he get second, third?
I think he got second because Baker won.
That's right. Chris Baker. No.
Jonathan Baker.
There was SB, Novikov. Now I'm all confused of what would happen, but
I'm thinking of the overall.
Yeah,
is what Jonathan Baker won, and Jake was right there. I think he either got second or third.
Yeah.
So
okay. Well, anyway, he comes out at this time of year and shows his strength, and beating Dean LaBerge, is impressive. So good for them.
I would agree. Yeah, no, that's definitely a sprinter's field there, looking at the guys that are in the top 4. In the women's P123, Casey Myers with Chico Cycling took the win over Lori Furman from San Jose Bike Club and over Anna Janis from Razzle Dazzle Cycling.
And we don't have listed there, but do you remember the 45s? I think it was Gardy Jackson.
And then I think Jerome was third or second.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. There was another racer there. I think he was from the Race for Research team.
Okay.
He was either second or third. Looked like he was battling Jerome for the field sprint.
Upcoming Nevada. Once again, we're still previewing the classics. So the classics are not over.
I was wrong. The classic season
Nevada City,
has not closed.
Nevada City Classics. We have Mike's Bikes Classic, Cats Hill Classic coming up this weekend, along with Wente Road Race Classic, Dana Point Grand Prix Classic on the 29th as well. We just mentioned that because some people like to double up onto that. I had Salinas in there. So we've got a rash of these canceled races going on now.
Yeah, it's definitely, before we jump into that, just kind of taking one step back. So Mike's Bikes Cats Hill, that's on Saturday.
Yes.
Punchy, climby crit. I've never done it, but from what I understand, it's a great race.
I would say back up a little bit and say it's not a climby crit. So you take like let's say Auburn, and you smash all the climbing into like 300 meters.
Okay.
So it's a wall. But it's a wall that sprinters handle it because it's like a big power move every time you come around. So, your big gamble is, do I stay in the big ring? Do I drop into the small ring and then go? And then you go over the top, and then you have this fast descent, come around the right-hander, and you got a good sprint.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful race. I love it.
So if this gets out before the race tomorrow, this podcast,
we'll get it out and you can listen to it on your way.
Awesome. They're not doing an increased day of reg fee. So
cool.
So day of fee is the same as the regular fee. So if the day of $5-10 uptick was kind of turning you away, that's off the table. So you've got one less reason to not go out there. So I think when I looked at the pre-reg for this, Mike's Bikes was rolling in big numbers. So it looked like the P12 field had close to 30 guys. So it should be a good showing on that front. And it always brings out an interesting range of finishers from what I've seen in that P12 race. I think Tobin Ortenblad's won it quite a few times. James LaBerge has won it. So it's Daniel Holloway's won it. So there's been quite a few different guys that have taken the win.
Yeah,
there.
So you say climbing, and those are not necessarily climbing. But if you got a guy, I remember I went and watched it in the 90s, came out and just happened to come out. I think it was 93, and I want to say like Ron Kiefel. Some of these big time strong guys, you can get away, and it's enough of a problem that you can stay away.
Yeah.
So you've had that over the years as well. So yeah, it's got everything. It's got the punch. It's got a cool downtown. Everything you want for a bike race. Are you going?
On the fence. We'll see. Right. I may have an existing obligation to absent Curt here, but we'll figure it out.
Oh, wow. That's out of date.
Yeah. Sunday, I've not. I'm just going to talk about all the races I've not done, and that would include Wente. That's from what I understand, a little more climbing oriented than Cat's Hill, but I think that's another one that's considered kind of a local classic, and it looked like that had a decent field showing up for it as well. But if that's not your bag, then yeah, Dana Point down in Dana Point obviously is always a huge turnout for a cool venue for a crit. So
yeah,
a lot of options.
With my go back to last week's podcast and talk about a little bit about my health issue. I'm not racing it for that reason. So
which one? Any of them?
Well, until I get cleared, but I'm not doing Cat's Hill, and I love that race. I've done it several times and love it. So I feel a little sad.
Next year. So on the topic of as you kind of alluded to, what happened to all the races? So I've got a list here that I've just been kind of throwing together as races get killed off. So we've lost the Madera stage race, allegedly due to weather, but I think the pre-reg numbers at that time were maybe a dozen. Turlock Road race, same thing. Weather issues, but I think the pre-reg numbers were a little frightening there as well. Most recently, we lost the Cascade stage race. And then shortly after that, Pescadero road race came off the schedule. That's due to inability to get permits because of road construction. Tour de Romandie up in Reno was recently pulled off just due to, I think, promoter concerns about the potential turnout of other races. And then Salinas Crit and the Modesto Crit just came off the calendar as well, and most likely it's just due to limited turnout in other races. It's hard to be optimistic about your race that's struggled in the past having a good showing this year if the more well-attended races are seeing a decline in turnout. So definitely a bummer.
Have you got any consensus as to why?
It depends on who you ask. Everybody's got their own theory and speculation. It's, the race calendar is so full that, well, I don't want to drive to Reno when I can race in my hometown this weekend and the following weekend. I might as well just hang out at home on the weekend when the race is in Reno. Or, other folks are just finding other things that catch their interest. There's been a big uptick in gravel rides or the grasshopper stuff or the Fondo scene, and maybe that's pulling people away where it's, you go to a more experience-driven event as opposed to just like get out, hammer a crit, and call it good. You're doing a barbecue afterwards, and maybe there's a couple aid stations where you get some drinks and snacks and whatnot. So it's a more of like if you're going to spend your day, would you rather spend it at a crit or doing a cool, fun riding event as opposed to a race?
Well, that's where the Jeff Prinz idea comes in, and do a lot of cornholing for the kids. That was for you, Curt.
But yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's funny that I sit here and gripe about it. I'm not really griping about it, but we'll discuss it, and I just can't fit a lot of the races into my schedule myself this year.
Yeah, no, I've mentioned this been a while, but growing up in the Northwest, I would hope to get maybe 5 races in a year, and I'm traveling. I lived over in the eastern part of Washington, Oregon, and I traveled to Seattle. We're talking 5 hours. So you could do a crit. I remember doing this, so you drive all the way out there, you spend the weekend, you do a crit, and maybe you get a flat or you wreck, so you're completed it. And then, a few weeks later you're in Portland. And so, every race was a big deal, but you're only doing 4 or 5 of those. Right. And then you come out here and, in a month you can do that.
Yeah.
And it's every month. So you get spoiled. And so I get it. So the calendar's still clogged, but I don't like to see the trend of starting to lose some of these races either.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a bummer because, obviously some of them like Pescadero where they're dealing with permitting issues because of road construction, that's kind of out of their hands. And that's usually a race that's well attended. But it was surprising to see something like Turlock that usually gets big fields just have, a dozen guys pre-reg for it. So I don't know if it's a situation of, well, it's rainy this weekend. Why am I going to go race in the rain when I can wait a week and then hit up something that's in better weather? Hard to say. And
okay, and we'll recap some of this in your things that make me go,
Oh, okay. Carry on.
Any winners for NorCal, right? Cycling scene, domestic?
I mean, it's hard not to look at Scotty Fonseca and his big win in the 45s at Auburn.
He's gonna put you in the barriers next time.
No. I mean, Tarun is just continuing to dominate. I mean, another win for them and another nearly sweeped podium. They're killing it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to just randomly pick Robert Terra. I talked to him. He seemed to be pretty cool about his little race, about getting a second on the podium. So he's always such a positive guy, like him. So we'll give him my winner for the week on the NorCal. Hey, we didn't go over Sea Otter. I tried looking at the results, and it's got, hey, search, and what category, and it was so inclusive. And then I finally did one, and I hit, search, and it was like road race, all categories, or something. And then it gives all the first place of all the different categories. And then it starts giving this, so it doesn't break them out into categories unless you do. But I wasn't sure which. It was too much, indecipherable.
It's not user friendly at all, because then it's like, well, do I select the Cat 1 field or the Cat 1-2 field, or do I select the 35 plus 1 or the 35 plus 1-2? It was just not user friendly. So you almost had to figure out how an individual did that you were looking for, and the best you could do is figure out their placing, but not who beat them.
I saw Todd Markel's one, and he beat Travis, right? Isn't that in the 35s?
In the road race, yeah. Okay.
Any other results you got out there? I saw Nation's #1 Beast won.
Did he win the crit or the
circuit race? I think.
Okay. I mean, both those, from what I understand, the circuit race has a couple decent climbs in it, and the crit is just basically up and down the corkscrew, or part of it.
Maybe it was the crit, then he won.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing the outcome of the 35 plus 1-2-3 road race with Markel's and Travis, because they're just polar opposites. I mean, Markel's is a sprightly climber, and then Travis is a big power climber.
But the optimum word there, climbers.
Yeah, that's true.
So
true. Who do you got for local losers?
Local losers, maybe all the races getting canceled. Oh no, is that yours?
Anyway, go ahead.
I'll come up. Why don't you do that one, and I'll come up with one as we talk.
Okay. Well, we can just cherry pick our losers based on which race we wanted to attend. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bummer to see all the races falling off the calendar and field sizes dwindling left and right. So hopefully there's a big uptick here in the upcoming races. So my losers is just, us as a whole for losing all these races.
Yeah, maybe it's this podcast, because what are we going to report? What's the local NorCal cycling scene if there's no NorCal cycling?
That's true. Well, I can give you some cool updates on the Wednesday race rides.
Okay, let's go there.
Okay. Stefan Creason won the points total for April for the Folsom Bike Wednesday ride.
Nice. Yeah. So this week we mentioned you had Cole Davis out there.
Yeah, he looked fresh. I mean, he was obviously not struggling to keep up with us 35 plus guys. So
well, good for him. Yeah. And you also said he was just chilling. So
yeah, it didn't look like he was really out there to hurt anybody. He put in a really big dig on one of the sprints just to set up a couple guys, but yeah, he was definitely just taking it easy.
We'll have to try to talk to him, but I do like Cole just doing those Wednesday rides for a few reasons. One is he's obviously talented. Last year he's a reigning national champion, a junior or whatever, and he would come out there, and sometimes he would, ride him really hard and kill us.
Yeah.
And sometimes he would just whatever his training schedule was, he seemed to have no ego to be able to just dial it back. And I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's
I take it that way rather than he sucks and we're just thrashing him.
It's good discipline on his part, though. I mean, it's really easy to get in that environment and just kind of lose focus on what your objective is.
Yeah.
So it's good to see him just kind of get out there and take it easy. So.
All right, things that make you go, What do you have for us, sir?
Should I get a new gravel bike? Is that what the future holds? Is that what I should be looking at?
Evidently.
Okay.
That's what we've determined, right?
I think so, yeah. Gravel bikes, and I need to get some flannel as well to kind of go along with it.
Peg leg and some, I don't know what you wear for shoes. What do they wear for shoes? Just
they use mountain bike shoes.
Oh, okay. I thought it was some sort of tennis shoe. Maybe I'm thinking of hipsters that ride single speeds.
That could be just some platform pedals and vans.
Bike cap. So evidently the rumor is double checked Winchester Golf Club 72 hole par 72. So my whole story with Curt is kind of going downhill. So I stand corrected. I was going to say something about Phil Guyman, but so Lance settles his case, and I'll just reiterate what the settlement was so everyone understands. $5 million, of which 1.1 goes to Floyd Landis for starting the case as a whistleblower.
Yeah.
And then he, in addition, pays $1.65 million to Floyd for his legal fees.
Right.
Okay. So Floyd gets 2.65 or 66 or something like that, right?
We're good at math.
7, whatever. I don't know what the numbers are. A little over $2 million for that. So that's the deal there. Lance, I think, came out of this thing really well. I also checked that there was a ruling earlier that the judge had made the point, and I think this is why the settlement came down, stating that showing the damages for the Postal Service was going to be very, very difficult. Matter of fact, they may have benefited with the sponsorship. Right. I mean, did you stop sending letters when you found out Lance was...
UPS started getting a lot of my business, I'll tell you that, for my regular mail.
Yeah, so that didn't happen. So anyway, what do you think Lance is going to do now? I mean, he made an announcement on his podcast. He's going to be doing the Giro. He's going to be doing the South, and he's got his other podcast. What do you think he's going to be doing? Because I have my own theories.
Well, what's he going to do, or what does he want to do? Because obviously he's going to be limited just based on the restrictions that are put on him. So I think he's going to be in a position where he can be a little more free to kind of go about and do what he wants. So I think I would expect to see him kind of in the peripheral range doing a lot of cycling commentary. I think eventually he'll be in a position where, he can get closer to the races, and maybe there'll be a slight reprieve on the ban of letting him in and around races. So regardless of what you think about him, he's got good insight on what's going on in the race.
I agree with that, and I think we're going to see him have much more prevalence. So what I also think is he has this other Forward podcast, and I get the suspicion that he wants to angle himself as like a new type of Joe Rogan. He's got his cycling stuff. Joe has his MMA,
right? And
then he's going to do this, intellectual discussions. So I checked one of these out, and it was I listen to a lot and watch a lot of things that like thinkers and people that just have interesting points of view, and they've really thought about things. So I'm watching him, and one of them was with this guy Michael Shermer, who he's a smart guy, but I came away really disappointed in Lance because I used to think he was somewhat intelligent.
Yeah. He
starts off the podcast, and it has nothing to do with cycling. Starts off the podcast, this guy wrote a book, and one of the words in his subtitles was the word utopia. Mm-hmm. And so Lance is like, he goes, geez, I had to look up the word utopia. He goes, then I found the word dystopia. And it did not improve from there. Okay. I don't know if he went into this drunk, high. I mean, Joe Rogan does his high. Maybe right. Lance is trying that. It was really disappointing. So I don't think he has a future in that, except for the sycophants that are going to be following in there. Right. But it'll be interesting to see. Well, maybe we'll ask him about what his utopian idea of cycling is when he comes out to the Tour of California.
That's true. We'll have to add him to our list of guys to get.
Yeah. So the segment we've tried to bring back from it was, what is Curt mad at?
Let's ask him.
And he's not here to answer that.
That's how mad he is.
I think he's mad about doing this podcast without getting paid. So. Hey, speaking of which, so if there's any sponsors out there that want to, businesses, people that want to sponsor us for the Tour of California, get in contact with us. admin@betweentwowheels.com. There you go.
Perfect.
Any other announcements that you have?
Not really. I'm just. It'll be interesting to see how the Tour of California sets up and who we get to talk to there.
Yeah, if anybody wants to suggest to us someone that you want to see interviewed, some questions you have for them, send them our way, and we'll see if it's appropriate.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We've got to figure out our own schedule to see what and where we're going to be. Are we going to follow a stage, or what are we going to do?
Yeah. So I just thought I'd read a little bit of mailbag here. Jason Graffath, YouTube, posted something. Hey, hope my heart issue gets taken care of. Yeah, we're glad to that. He said you did call out Woods, so he gave you credit for that. He loved your race analysis, Chris.
At least one person does.
Yeah. Then he thought he said Tyler's been very quiet lately, but he then corrected it to say Curt. So yes, Curt has been quiet. Mr. Chandler chimed in on my YouTube. He said he made the podcast. I'm not going to go into what he said. You can take a look at it if you really want to. So it looks like he's not too fond on Phil Guyman as well, but whatever. So if you guys make comments, any good, positive comments, we'll definitely take them in, or negative. We'll take those in as well. Any last parting shots before we head out for the weekend?
No, I just hope to see that the races get some good turnout this week, and hope you're enjoying your time plodding around on the bike at a low
it's tough
intensity.
I was riding yesterday, and I'm just trying to keep the heart rate below 160, and I'm listening to stuff, and I'm riding and just kind of tooling around the neighborhood, and next thing you know, I look down, it's like 165, and I'm like backing off, and because I'm used to that, and I feel fine. So I have my stress test a week from today, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
But I wanted to have a little exercise so that I can actually I could do okay in it.
Yeah, you don't want to turn out a really poor stress test and have them kind of furrow the brow at you.
I'm sure I'll be fine.
Are you sure you ride a bike?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what you're doing?
So I'm sure I'll be fine.
Yeah.
It is good to hear the armchair cardiologist coming out of the woodwork, though. If you're one, if you got a suggestion for me, please send it my way. All right. Well, Curt, thanks again for missing out. We miss you. That's all I can say.
Yeah. It was good to see him show up via Skype. Any
last parting words for the throngs out there, Chris?
No, got nothing.
You're not even very motivating this today.
I'm trying to pay attention and respond to some external.
Let's get back to our regular jobs. So check us out once again, Facebook, our YouTube channel, any of the podcasts. It's real easy. You just go in there and you say rate, and you click the 5-star, click a 1-star. I don't care. Make a little comment. Help us out, though. And the more you help us out, the more we'll help you out. Have a good weekend. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.